basketball fans? Welcome back. So this weekend in KBF, Kenyan basketball, I'll be taking a closer look at the Premier League, and in no particular order, I'll just be picking a game and just talking about it. So in the first game of the week, to just start off the weekend, we saw the eventual matchup, the Nderitu Thunder versus the Ulinzi Warriors. I talked about them in the previous video extensively, just saying the Nderitu Thunder are just headed on a historic run and for a historic season. And this season, they might go unbeaten as they made quick work of the Ulinzi Warriors 75-55. That game was just so one-sided in the second half. In the first half, I can say both teams were holding serve pretty well, especially that physicality of the Ulinzi Warriors. But as push came to shove later in the latter parts of the game, in the second half, in the third and fourth, you could see the difference in technical skill and play style, because you saw on one hand you saw a team that relied so much on like grit and grind and effort. On the other side, for the Nderitu Thunder, you could see this is a team that knew and tried to make smart plays, and they knew what plays they needed to make to get past the Ulinzi Warriors, and so they did. 75-55 was the final score. I talked extensively about this game in a previous video I made, so if you haven't watched that, please be sure to go check that one out. Then we have KPA. So KPA was slated to play on Saturday and Sunday. So on Saturday they play against the Equity Dumas, and on Sunday they played against the KU Pirates. So in that game against the Equity Dumas, this was a game that I can say it was quite underwhelming, and there was a point where I saw KPA really were just not looking good in the game. And despite even them winning, they didn't look the best. And I can say some of the calls that they got went to their favor. I'm not going to, go ahead verbatim and say the calls that happened, because the film is always there if you check online. There were a couple of platforms that were streaming. But honestly, KPA don't look as dominant as they were in previous times. And the best team that has the ability to take down the Nderitu Thunder as currently constructed is the Equity Dumas and not the KPA Dockers. So in the top 4 teams in KBF, we have seen the Nderitu Thunder take apart every single team. The first domino to fall was the KPA Dockers team. The men's team fell last year in the Makana Gymnasium. Last year you got to see that matchup, the Nderitu Thunder versus the Equity Dumas. The Dumas made that, the first time the Equity Dumas met the Nderitu Thunder, it was a very close game, but the Nderitu Thunder outlasted them. And the second time they met, it was still close, and still the result was the same. And the Nderitu Thunder went ahead and won, and you could see the games were clutch when the Equity Dumas and Nderitu Thunder played. So heading on to KPA. KPA is the last team that is left to be able to try to challenge the Nderitu Thunder. But given like the matchup that they had in the Makana Gymnasium, I don't think they'll be any different. So, and also the KPA Dockers team was suffering 2 back-to-back losses that really pushed them below the standings. I dare say they were number 4, and they were close to the 5th spot and even the 4th spot. They are just holding the 4th spot in the top 4 teams by a thin thread. And they needed to win, and they needed to get a credible win at that. So they went ahead and won that game against the Equity Dumas this Saturday. And it was much needed, because after losing to the USIU Tigers and also losing to the Ulinzi Warriors in the Makana Gymnasium in their home court, I know they were at their lowest point, and they needed to find a way. And this game was actually funny, the Equity Dumas versus the KPA Dockers game, to some point where two players had like a bandaged, they had white bandages on their heads. I know that game was quite insane and it was intense, and also considering the fact that Eugene, he's playing for the Equity Dumas right now. So just seeing how the KPA Dockers looked without his productivity, it was very important to see, did they make a mistake? But right now, Only time will tell. But this weekend they finished off well, because in the second game of the weekend, they beat the KU Pirates, which was actually expected, because the KU Pirates are the Detroit Pistons of the KBF league. They are that team that they're on that losing streak, and I don't think it's stopping anytime soon. So the KPA men's team went off on a high, and honestly, this is actually quite entertaining, and it's actually good to see, because we need to see what they're trying to do, what they're going to do, especially when the regular season comes to a close and the playoffs kick off. So there's that. Then we had the Equity Hawks versus USIU Flames. So the Equity Hawks, they beat the USIU Flames 67-55. And honestly, like I said before, the women's division, I can say, is very weak. If you look at the Equity Hawks and KPA ladies team, they're on an absolute tear. And there's no team that can be able to challenge them. The only team that had an interesting game against either KPA or Equity is the ZTEC Sparks alone. But the others, no, I'm not sure. Because the USIU Flames the final score does not tell you the whole story, because you can just see how overmatched they got. And you can see the effect of playing in the AWB look poorly when they play in the AWBL. And when they play against low-tier teams, especially in the women's division, of course they're bound to shine, because when they go outside when you play outside Kenya, they get embarrassed to the point, and they get embarrassed by very quality teams. But when they come back, it's very difficult for them to lose a game, because they have been iron hardened. And that's the same thing as the KPA ladies team. And the KPA ladies team, we got to see the matchup against the ZTEC Sparks. And that game was, I can see the ZTEC Sparks choked that game, because at some point they had a 10-point lead and they just threw away the game. And the lack of, I can just say, awareness and basic basketball IQ on the court is the reason as to why they lose games. I don't know what ZTEC do, because you can't run and gun the whole thing. You just can't say that you are going to, depend on your, running, scoring. You have to have structure, and basketball is a science. And that's something that ZTEC keeps learning the hard way. And that's the reason as to why they can't win anything. They always fall second every single time. I have been watching the ZTEC Sparks from quite some time now. Even if they added Medina, who I don't even think would have the result would have been different if she was there, because you saw what happened in the finals in 2023, and this team still, even with her on the court, they still got swept. So even if with her absence in yesterday's game, the ZTEC Sparks held serve pretty well, but unfortunately they just couldn't be able to get the job done, and that's the reason as to why they lost. Basic basketball IQ was just lacking there. Then KPA matched up against the K Oryx. I mean, this is the games are no contest, 94-22. So every single time they keep getting, they keep getting wins on these weak teams, and they keep getting blowouts like that. So no much comment on that one. Then we got to see the Eldonets versus Storms game. So this game was actually quite close. This game 56-52, Eldonets 56, Storms 52. I don't know what the Storms are doing right now. They played this weekend, but I'm not sure what they're doing right now. It's very hard to be able to pinpoint and see what other teams are doing well, and also what other teams what plan they have, because as long as KPA and Equity and ZTEC are there, they're just going to serve as a roadblock for any other women's team to be able to do anything significant. So yeah, just to wrap up on the women, we got to see the Strathmore Swords versus Anu Panthers. This is a low scoring game, 45-40. Not much to mention there. It's just the same case. The women's division runs through KPA, Equity, and ZTEC. I don't think there's any other women's team that can be able to take them apart like that. There's no Cinderella run from the women's division, because the women's division, as I said, it's just weak, and the way the players are approaching the games, not entertaining at all. Then we had the Strathmore Blades. They played against the UN Terror, 60-47. So this is just another mid-table clash. Outside the top four, we just have a couple of games there, and honestly, I mean, it's just one of those games that, any outcome does not have any effect on the grand scheme of things. It doesn't shift anything in the power rankings. But the game, Lindsay Warriors versus the Under Wolfpack game. So that game was just a blowout. Under Wolfpack, they've just fallen off, and I don't know what these guys are doing, because if they keep, looking like this, there's a high likelihood that they can get relegated, because they're playing relegation. They're just playing relegation basketball right now, and the Lindsay Warriors needed to get a win, especially coming off a loss against the Thunder. So just to round out their weekend. So that's just a recap of what happened. I've not gone to too much detail like that, but honestly, KBF, this was one of the most quiet weekends. I know we've had good weekends where there's that clash and that anticipation, but this one, apart from Friday's game, there was not much intensity in games on Saturday and Sunday. So if you guys like the video, make sure to leave feedback down in the comments, and I'm out. Peace.